Fiji, Dasani, Aquafina, Evian, Culligan, and Dolan Spring. What do all these companies have in common? The answer: they all make bottled water. Bottled water is bad for our pocketbooks, bad for the environment, and bad for our health. Not only do all these companies make bottled water, but all of their bottled water products contain this chemical compound shown here. This compound is known as bisphenol A, or BPA. BPA is a chemical compound used to make plastic bottles. BPA is mainly consumed through your diet. The BPA in the plastic leaches into the water, especially in warm conditions. Then, we consume the water, therefore consuming the BPA. According to the National Institute of Health Sciences, the 2003-2004 National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey (NHANES3), conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC), found detectable levels of BPA in 93% of 2,517 samples from people 6 years or older. We know most people have consumed BPA before, as stated in the study by the CDC, but why does it matter? According to Healthline, BPA is said to mimic the structure and function of the hormone estrogen. Due to its estrogen-like shape, BPA can bind to estrogen receptors and influence bodily processes such as growth, cell repair, fetal development, energy levels, and reproduction. Babies have been found to weigh up to half a pound less at birth, in addition to being more hyperactive, anxious, and depressed. BPA also leads to cancer, 27 to 135% greater risk of high blood pressure. 47% higher levels of BPA have been found in people with obesity. Women with higher BPA levels are 91% more likely to deliver early. 130% greater risk of wheezing and asthma. 29% higher risk of bad liver function. Worse immune and thyroid function. Now, all of these are bad for our health, but the worst health effect of all, in my opinion, is this. According to Healthline, African green monkeys exposed to BPA levels judged safe by the Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) showed loss of connection between brain cells. This information is deeply disconcerting, and the fact that BPA levels deemed safe by the EPA were still proven to harm the brain. In conclusion, most people have been exposed to BPA, and BPA is linked to myriad diseases and medical problems. Not only is bottled water bad for our health, but it's also bad for our environment. According to Food and Water Watch, in 2016, 4 billion pounds of plastic was used in U.S. bottled water production, requiring an energy input of 64 million barrels of oil. Of the 50 billion water bottles consumed each year, 30 billion of those are consumed in the U.S. That means we consume 60% of the world's water bottles, even though we only have 4.5% of the population. That's a lot of unnecessary plastic. To further prove the point, 1,500 water bottles are consumed in the U.S. every single second. According to HuffPost, the Earth Policy Institute factors the energy used to pump, process, transport, and refrigerate the bottled water as over 50 million barrels of oil every year. HuffPost states, it takes 3 times the volume of water to manufacture one bottle than to fill it, and because of the chemical production of the plastic, the water used to make it is unusable, as it's been contaminated in the production of the plastic. That means it takes not 1, not 2, but 3 times the amount of water to manufacture the bottle than to actually fill it. And that water used to manufacture the bottle gets thrown away because it's been contaminated in the production of the bottle. Yet those same chemicals that contaminated the water during manufacturing leach into the packaged water from the plastic, which we ultimately consume. Plastic bottles are recyclable as they are made of polyethylene terephthalate, or PET, plastics. But 80% of those plastics end up in landfills. For every 10 bottles, only 2 get recycled. Our national recycle rate for PET plastics is only 23%, which means we throw 38 billion water bottles into landfills each year. PET plastics don't biodegrade, they photodegrade. This means that they break down into smaller fragments over time, but never completely go away. These small fragments, also known as microplastics, absorb toxins that pollute the waterways, contaminate soils and plants, and make animals sick. Then we eat those animals. These tiny plastics sitting in landfills can take centuries to decompose. According to the Ocean Conservancy, every year 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the ocean, adding to the 150 million metric tons of plastic that is currently in the ocean. 10% of all plastic manufactured around the globe ends up in the ocean. In conclusion, plastic bottles have a bad effect on the planet, and pollution is a huge problem. Bottled water is expensive. A gallon's worth of bottled water costs almost $9.50. That's 2,000 times the price of tap water, 3 times the average price for a gallon of milk, and 4 times the average price for gas. This means that bottled water is thousands of times more expensive than tap water. Many people believe that bottled water is safer than tap water. What those people don't know is that they are very wrong. According to HuffPost, 47.8% of all bottled water is just repackaged tap water. Food and Water Watch agrees, saying more than half of all bottled water comes from the tap. In fact, tap water is tested more frequently than bottled water. According to Food and Water Watch, tap water is tested more frequently than bottled water. In fact, in the United States, our drinking water is continuously monitored and treated according to federal standards. If tap water is unsafe, then water companies are obligated under federal law to notify the public. In conclusion, bottled water is expensive. It is not safer than tap, and you are basically buying tap water. Still not convinced? Then take this into account. Over 780 million people don't have access to clean water, and yet we buy water that is bad for our health, bad for the environment, promotes fossil fuels, is expensive, and not actually safer. Now you may be thinking, problem solved, I'll just buy products that are BPA free. Well, spoiler alert, BPA free products are not actually safer. BPA free products replace the BPA with chemicals such as BPS or BPF, or other similar chemicals that have the same health effects as BPA. All in all, bottled water is bad for our health, bad for the environment, bad for our pocketbooks, not safer than tap, and promotes fossil fuels. Consider this. Is drinking bottled water really worth getting cancer?